Welcome back to the channel. China Airlines has become the next global carrier to adjust its fleet renewal efforts as taking delivery of new Boeing planes is becoming more complex. The Taiwanese carrier says that the adjustment will involve the delayed retirement of older, less efficient planes, which should have already been on the way out, but are being retained. The postponement of the retirement of jets at China Airlines is a measure being undertaken to prevent losing valuable market share and avoid capacity drop-offs across several locations. The chairman said that the 787-9s were intended to replace aircraft such as the A330 and surprisingly some 737-800s, as the Dreamliners naturally offer quite a boost over these older types that will be on the way out, alongside allowing for greater fleet simplification. However, due to Boeing's inability to deliver jets as intended, primarily driven by their internal troubles and not just supply chain woes over recent years, the renewal of the business for China Airlines is not occurring at the intended pace. Looking ahead, a commitment to 24 787s has already been signed, with these Dreamliners expected to serve a mix of regional and also long-haul markets, including those covered by the 787-9 and the 787-10, two variants that have been selected. China Airlines says the Boeing delays are impacting its own ability to move forward, with the impact, according to them, being quite great. And as a result, they may look to seek compensation, according to comments that were shared with Reuters. Certainly not an unfamiliar approach, something certainly airlines have looked to move ahead with if their situation has only worsened. The carrier should have already phased out more aircraft from its operation by now, or even handed them back to lessors, but this has not happened, and in some cases, leases of aircraft have been extended to ensure that they can stick around to mitigate some of the capacity constraints that they would encounter otherwise. One of the frustrations for China Airlines, which cannot be helped to a degree, is that Boeing, on the part of the American plane maker, is unable to really provide exact timeframes for when these deliveries are going to occur, which can really frustrate airlines who are attempting to make plans for their future. China Airlines, at the very least, would not be alone in being impacted by the delays across Boeing's commercial airplane divisions. The extent of the delays continue to vary, and therefore the impact on specific airlines will also change. Some are seeing more extended periods without new aircraft than others. Despite the length, however, the impact at its very core of what is actually being affected remains the same, and whether it is overall fleet, route, or business planning, it's significant enough to throw airlines out of whack and what they would consider normal operations. Over to the next story, and Spirit Airlines has expressed frustrations and urged the US Department of Transportation to reject a partnership between JetBlue and United Airlines. The partnership, announced in May, aims to leverage these two airlines through a new Blue Sky initiative, as it has been labelled, which seeks to foster greater harmony between bookings, point usage, and other benefits on frequent flyer programs. However, Spirit Airlines believes that such a deal would have a significant ramification for companies like itself and set quite a bad precedent moving forward for other larger companies with prospective deals of a similar nature, potentially at some point also being moved ahead with. Spirit Airlines is pushed to block the partnership due to its anti-competitive nature and the dominant carrier's status as a legacy one, which benefits from a low-cost competitor. Much deliberation continues right across the industry due to the impact these type of deals have on airlines with a smaller market share and how the consolidation of larger companies would erode their position. I'd love to hear your take on this down below in the comments. Obviously, some passengers are going to see the benefit and others are going to stand on the side of Spirit Airlines. As a result, though, this is why it doesn't make it uncommon for a company of Spirit Airlines' size to emerge and express its belief that such a proposition, such as Blue Sky, would have negative ramifications on not just itself, but for the US industry. Again, like I said, it isn't uncommon, but certainly this is being highlighted more given the history that Spirit Airlines has with JetBlue in just the last couple of years. Remembering that only in the last year and a half, we saw a deal between JetBlue and Spirit Airlines to consolidate within the US sector and elevate both airlines to really put pressure on the big three, be rejected by a US judge at the beginning of 2024, and by March 2024, JetBlue confirmed it would break up plans for the landmark move to take on Spirit. The judge's rejection was quite a setback to any genuine attempts of the deal moving forward, and even at the time of the initial rejection, there were quite a lot of doubts over the appeal process that was to follow. Spirit Airlines always remained externally as the company that was pushing for the deal more so to get over the line, with analysts actually going as far as arguing that JetBlue would not benefit in a financial manner from the tie-up, and it being rejected was probably for the best on their end. Alongside the push from the US low-cost carrier, it was felt they would benefit more, as without JetBlue, their financial position would grow weaker. And now, after quite a fair bit of restructuring, there is finally light at the end of the tunnel for Spirit Airlines. But it has been a very challenging period and is only likely going to continue as costs rise and we see far more increased competition. And on the part of Spirit Airlines, they feel that if efforts such as what is taking place at JetBlue and United Airlines is allowed to continue, its impact will be profound. Over to the final story, and Air New Zealand is expanding, the flag carrier confirming that its Trans-Tasman network will see quite a fair bit of growth between October 2025 and March 2026, aligning with the summer schedule down here. There'll be 1.7 million seats between New Zealand and Australia offered. The mammoth seat total positions Air New Zealand as the largest carrier on the Trans-Tasman market, aided by the addition of over 130,000 seats. Air New Zealand says it is a decision that is in response to the demand they're experiencing and the necessity to add more wide-body aircraft across key routes, while focusing also on bringing more premium seating to popular Australian cities. With more aircraft back in service, the flag carrier is stepping up its overall flying, not just to do so more frequently, which would be the most basic assumption, but it believes it can offer greater consideration to its customers with better connectivity options, giving its passengers and also prospective ones more reasons to fly Air New Zealand over competitors. With an 85-year history of flying across the Tasman, the very first flight in 1940 took off for Sydney, and the operator's commitment has always been unwavering, and it's expected to grow further in the future. As for the biggest changes that will be visible, it's seen on the Auckland to Perth route, with 30,000 additional seats, representing an almost 30% jump in capacity, and the previously daily flights growing up to 9 services per week. Auckland to Sydney is seeing 25,000 more seats, and that will include 7,500 premium seats, a 20% jump, and there will be 13 wide-body services per week. Auckland to Melbourne will also see some growth. 16,000 additional seats are being added, and Air New Zealand says it will fly more wide-body planes to this city per week as well. Other focuses include their service towards Queensland, with Brisbane and Gold Coast getting a jump, and while yes, much of the focus is always going to rest on Auckland, there is still some other New Zealand cities that will be welcoming some increased capacity. That includes Queenstown and Christchurch. Very much keen to hear your take down below in the comments on today's aviation news recap. Thank you very much for your support. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow for more news.
And we'll fly.